This week has been one of those weird weeks where it feels like it's been slow news and then you realise, really, it hasn't. So today we're going to be talking about a variety of things from the conventions to the streams ArenaNet have done to dev posts. Let's start with one of the biggest things straight away. It has now been confirmed that Heart of Thorns will be coming this year. First, it was a post in Twitch chat, I believe, which said that they are committing to 2015. And then later, ArenaNet revealed this tweet here, which you can clearly see says, in case you missed it on our live stream from Gamescom, Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns will be launching in 2015. So when they first said, oh, we're committing to 2015, there was a bit of discussion suggesting, oh, does committing mean we're actually going to see it, or are they just saying that they're trying for 2015? Well, it couldn't be any clearer than this. 2015 definitely looks like the year. Some people are still taking that with a grain of salt in this industry. As gamers, we're more than used to developers telling us, hey, it will release now, and then it gets pushed back. So I think it would be wise to take this with a grain of salt. It's weird. If you put it in perspective, that means they're kind of saying at some point in the next 4 months, right? And that doesn't seem like a long time scale at all. I know to some of us as well, it seems like there's not really much content going to be in the expansion. I think some of our perceptions, though, mine included, could be kind of warped because they are only showing us a little bit of Verdant Brink. And don't forget one of the recent blog posts where they said, this is really just to preserve that feeling of exploration. We don't want to blow everything. I, as a player, am not too sure how they do things in other MMOs. Apparently, Blizzard show an awful lot when they do a World of Warcraft expansion. Am I wrong about that, guys? And maybe we're just feeling like ArenaNet don't have that much, but I'm kind of confident now. You know, the fact that they've started saying this, before they weren't saying this at all. It seems like now they have more confidence that they can pin down a release date a little bit closer. So, in 2015, over the next 4 months. Another quick little thing about necromancers. It's very in at the moment, whether you're a necromancer player or not. It's very in to be kind of on this bandwagon where everyone says, oh, necromancers are terrible, you know, we're always getting slighted. Like, it's everywhere at the moment. Well, one of the devs has responded somewhat to this. Robert G made a post. This guy did some significant, I would say, amount of work on the Reaper. We really don't know how much work he did on the Reaper and the Chronomancer. It's just that he presented them to us. He specifically mentions that he has worked on them before. I'm still seeing a lot in the community. People are like, oh, Necromancer and Reaper are Robert G's territory and his territory alone, and so if they're failing, it's his fault, and we'll levy all the blame now. I think that's kind of weird that we're associating devs with specific things, but anyway, he says, regarding general silence, it's mostly due to how busy everything is at the moment, but also due to how a company as large as ArenaNet works. I'll see if I can explain a few things to put this situation into context. Right now, I'm waiting to get feedback from the upcoming beta weekend on Chronomancer and Reaper, which of course we will be able to play. He says, I haven't worked on either of them though for several weeks. And a lot of the changes we're seeing at Gamescom, because the Gamescom demos, which were being streamed, I'll talk about in a second, were locked down ages ago and aren't necessarily indicative of like the current state of the class. Anyway, after a few more things, he says he's fixing a lot of bugs on many professions, and he says that isn't to say, though, that he's not paying attention to what necromancers are saying or what's been said in the past. He says he does take notes, as I would expect many of the devs do. He has notes on things to improve for both Axe and Scepter. Axe is kind of the main one, I think, universally a lot of necros really dislike at the moment. And he says a note on other skills that they could add projectile blocking to. For example, Reaper Shroud 2 actually blocks projectiles specifically because of a suggestion he'd read. So they are listening. It's warmed the hearts of some necromancers, but nothing really specific has been stated. Next up was a fairly big article by IGN, and I will go into this telling you guys they got stuff wrong. However, let's talk about the stuff that they did get right. First, they were talking about Masteries. Now, we've heard that there's going to be a bigger talk on Masteries coming from ArenaNet at Gamescom on Saturday. So Saturday's the big day where supposedly they've got a lot more detail that they'll be going into for us. Now, first of all, they state that when the expansion launches, there will be 7 mastery lines. Now, what's interesting is we've seen 6 already. Count with me. We've got Gliding, Exalted, Itzel, New Hawk, and then we've got the 2 Tyria ones. We've got Fractals and Precursors. That's 6. They're saying that there's 7. Now, from data mining, we've heard of 2 more. We've heard of Chak Law, and we've heard of Dinosaur Law. But IGN is about to explain to us what the 7th one is. It's a packed Tyria line. So maybe Dino and Chak stuff are masteries that will be added in Living World further down the line. Talking about Fractals specifically, they say, of the central Tyria lines, each one has a clear role to fill. The Fractal Attunement Mastery grants access to the additional dailies, new infusions, and instant-specific buff items or challenge modes. So this is the first we've heard about this. They're actually going to unlock dailies for us, depending on our mastery. So those like 50-plus dailies for Fractals might not appear on the list whatsoever. That's a very curious thought to me, that over time, as Guild Wars 2 gets older, the more masteries we complete, the more full our daily options become compared to, say, new accounts who haven't begun doing that stuff. The idea of new infusions, again, has been mentioned, so once again, I'll reiterate what I said before in the week. I don't believe we're going to see the removal of agony at all. I think we're just going to see more infusions. We did, for those totally out of the loop, hear a long time ago about better infusions that would give you more stats. So right now you've got really basic infusions that just give you an amount of AR. And then you've got other ones that give you AR plus a couple of stats. And there's actually different rarities of them too. So the idea would be, we've currently only got like the common and the blue, maybe the green infusions. And what's been data mined before are higher ones. So you've got like the green one, or then the rare one, perhaps even, and these haven't been seen, but the idea of like exotic infusions or ascended infusions. So that those people who really want to go for the peanut stats that ultimately don't make any real changes to general gameplay but want to keep going up like that treadmill for tiny gains actually can do that. But we never saw them be realized in the game, and maybe that's something we're going to be seeing with Heart of Thorns and what they're talking about here with new infusions. Of course, then we did hear as well with the Fractal specific post they put up about these new consumables we can buy that will help us in Fractals and won't like overwrite our food and stuff, and now this seems to be locked behind the Mastery. So we complete the Mastery to gain the ability to buy those buff items. And then lastly, challenge modes. Remember we heard about achievements, difficult group-wide achievements that you'd have to complete in Fractals? Well, maybe that's where these challenge modes come on, though I'd like a bit more incentive to continue doing those challenge modes while I play Fractals, even after I've got that achievement in the first place. We'll have to see. So, let's talk about this mysterious third Pact Commander Mastery. This is newly revealed, and they say this focuses on mentoring new players and enables you to have a special icon over your head or in chat to indicate that you're happy to help others. Continuing along this path will also unlock the ability to revive allies faster based on how many levels lower than you they are, and even two features all Guild Wars 2 fans have been desperately waiting for: auto loot and speed boosts in city. The speed boosts in cities, I'm wondering whether we'll stack with those NPCs. One thing I've always not really liked about Guild Wars 2 cities is it's great that they're so big, that's awesome, but there's also very little reason to talk to the various NPCs around there, mechanically speaking. You know, for story, yeah, you're going to do that maybe once or twice and then never care about it again, or a lot of players decided they didn't care about the story like when they saw the first cutscene of the game and won't care about it at all. These mechanical reasons to speak to NPCs are something I've felt Guild Wars 2 is always lacking, and now if we just get a mastery that gives us the speed boost without even having to speak to NPCs, I'm not sure how much I like that idea. Auto loot is of course awesome, and the res speeds thing sounds fun, but let's think about this. Really, how often are we going to get a super benefit out of this? What is this? Does it really matter that we can res a level 10 player insanely fast? Really? Does that matter? It's not like they're adding new low-level zones or a new race that's going to make new people level up in new areas that might actually be kind of challenging, right? So, I don't know, it seems like a bit of fluff, a bit of padding. I tried in a video just 2 days ago to speculate about kind of global masteries we could get that affect everywhere, and I never would have come up with this because I just don't think people would have been that interested in it. That said, I think we should probably hold our judgment until Saturday to see just what else that mastery track might offer and where ArenaNet envisioned it being used. Maybe I'm just being kind of small-minded about it. Last of all, the article dropped on this bombshell here. ArenaNet was keen to emphasize more mastery lines will be added in future patches, but it estimates collecting all 39 masteries coming at launch will take players as long as leveling from 1 to 80. The good news is that the system is account-wide, meaning once they've earned them on one character, you have them on all. Is that good news, really? You're telling me that it's going to take from level 1 to level 80 to max our masteries, and oh no, this is so scary and terrifying that we're going to have to do this, so at least it's account-bound and we'll never have to do it again. This is a tall order. Clearly written by someone who has no idea about how easy it is to get to level 80 in Guild Wars 2, even without the use of level-up tomes. However, the good news here is, despite my initial outrage at reading this and learning of this and thinking I was going to do a very negative, sad video today, it was confirmed by Colin over here on the forums that this is complete baloney and they have no idea where this information came from. In Colin's words, not sure where this info came from on it taking the same amount of time as getting from levels 1 to 80, but simply put, it's incorrect. A, we haven't decided how long it will take to earn them all, and are doing beta weekends to help decide a good length of time, and B, currently as timed in game today, it would take a good deal longer than it took total game hours to earn all the masteries. So this is good to me. This is very good because at least it's longer than 1 to 80. With their current tuning, that could change. They haven't decided. If people do the weekend and everyone complains that it takes too long, which I would hope ArenaNet take with a pinch of salt because we only get to play for a weekend, and a lot of that complaints is probably going to be people wanting to master them all in one weekend and they're not thinking ahead to the future. But okay, let's say everyone complains, they will change it. But at least for their initial tuning, we know it's longer than 1 to 80. The question is, what do they think 1 to 80 is? I really don't know. It seems ArenaNet are kind of out of touch with the way that their game ended up releasing, and certainly the state that it's in now. I'll take you back to before launch, when we were hearing statements about how long it would take to get to level cap. You know, this is a common question people ask about a new MMO, and what they said was that they were going to have a flat leveling curve that flattened out very early. So the first couple of levels, yeah, you get a lot quicker, but then it's going to flatten out. And they said that they found like a sweet spot. There was a certain amount of time it takes to get a level that was just fun. And so why have an exponential leveling curve when you can hit that spot and all your levels can take that amount of time? What did they say that amount of time was? They said it was an hour and a half. They said they wanted Guild Wars 2 to be a game where it takes roughly an hour and a half to get every level as you go up. So doing some basic maths here, okay, very basic. I'm not much of a maths guy, but let's cut away the first 20 levels because the curve is, say, a little bit shorter there. That's an arbitrary point I've picked. So let's say we've got 60 levels with a flat leveling curve. Each of them takes an hour and a half. That's at least 90 hours. So if ArenaNet are still in the mindset that they realized their initial plans for the amount of time it takes to level, we're looking at least a 90-hour period to max all masteries. I still think that's still on the short side, and the truth is, ArenaNet probably aren't that out of touch, and they probably know what we know. It doesn't take that long to level at all. Not in the state that the game's in now. Not when things like Edge of the Mists exist and Dungeons exist. 2 formats that generate vast amounts of experience, and you could get a level 80 in like less than 2 days in EOTM. Let's not consider the fact that, yes, we have to disregard level up tomes and stuff. We know those won't affect masteries, but you have to look at the fact that everyone's accounts or existing players' accounts, they have a lot of XP boosts on them from their achievement rewards. You gotta look at how easily you can buy fireworks and stuff from the trading post. This stuff is cheap and it boosts your XP, not just from kills, which is what most things in the game do, but from everything. You complete an event, it gives you bonus experience on the event. You complete a heart, it gives you bonus experience on the heart. It gives you bonus experience for tons of stuff. And then everyone has boosters too. Things go a lot quicker in Guild Wars 2 now, and even when you cut that stuff away, last year I leveled a ranger. I leveled that ranger without ever waypointing on him, getting lost most of the time, starting with 0 gold, 0 karma, like really restricting myself and taking a long time to do things, and still I was getting over 1 level per hour. So yeah, why am I going into a huge rant about this? Well, because I suppose the fact that ArenaNet so heavily failed to realize their hour-and-a-half strategy at launch, I'm concerned that they'll fail to realize their Masteries strategy now. But we can also take the idea that they fail 1 hour and a half to get a level was kind of fun at launch. Does that mean they think an hour and a half to get a Mastery like tier is fun around about now? But there aren't as many tiers in Masteries as there were in levels. So I'm very curious. One final thing I would like to say on this topic is there was a short period today when our community genuinely believed that it was going to take the period of time from level 1 to level 80 to get all masteries. And this was a pretty unique opportunity for us to look at how the community in general would react. Would people be happy and say, yay, I don't have to grind, this is awesome, masteries are just a glorified set of keys? That was a comment I had yesterday, and I actually think is a wonderful analogy for masteries. They are basically just a set of keys. They unlock the ability for us to do a variety of things. Would people be happy with this, or would they be concerned? And actually, I was very happy to see most people had a level head on their shoulders and were saying, oh, that seems a little bit too quickly. We're all going to be done in a week and then masteries are going to become a non-mechanic. That's a bit of a shame. And so I was happy with that. You guys still, though, this was a big question on our previous video, will have to let me know how long do you think that these will have to take, because everyone's got their own subjective opinion on it. It could be a bit of a train crash for ArenaNet. They're not going to be able to satisfy everyone. I just want them to satisfy me. Okay, moving on. One last thing to talk about are legendary weapons. So this is perhaps something to still be concerned about. It's been revealed that when Heart of Thorns drops, we're only going to have 3 legendary weapons in the game. Ouch. So this is going to come as crazy news to some of you guys. The truth is, we've known about this for a long time. Ever since they announced, they did that blog post on legendary weapons a long time ago, and the way that the new collections and masteries would all tie into this glorious thing, they did say to us at that point, not all of them will be in when Heart of Thorns comes out. They did say that. Well, now we have a specific numbers. Only 3 of them are coming with the expansion. And a lot of you are going to be wondering, why is that, man? That is so low. I think it's folly to judge the entire expansion based on the amount of legendaries it has. I know that that even Masteries aside, Legendaries are probably the thing that's going to keep most people in the game. You can look at launch, and Guild Wars 2 really only had, for the players that actually played the game consistently, and, you know, not just like an hour a day or incredibly casually, the only thing that held a player base in Guild Wars 2 for a long time was the fact that legendary weapons existed. And a lot of people are going to be going into Heart of Thorns, run out of Masteries quite quickly, as we've talked about, potentially, and then going to want Legendaries to craft. If one of those 3 Legendaries isn't one they want, they could end up leaving. So there's some concern there, but I don't think you can judge the entire expansion on it. The question, of course, also remains, what are the 3 legendary weapons? At launch, we saw that they did 3 great swords, so is it possible we'll get, like, 3 staffs, or 2 staffs, and then a 3rd one that we can create by combining them together? That would just be ludicrous. They could do some other pretty offensive stuff too, like have them entirely underwater. You know, these are the 3 underwater legendaries that are going to come out. Oh, surprise, surprise. 75% of all Heart of Thorns maps are underwater, guys. Enjoy your new legendaries. No, they're not going to do anything like that. I would expect probably a 2-hander, probably a main hander, and an offhand. You know, that would be a nice mix. And so then you might be wondering, well, what about the other legendaries? Well, they're going to be coming with the living world. I know it seems disappointing that we're not getting them all right away, but I do find some confidence in the fact that they have so clear a roadmap for their living world going forward. There's a few things that we can just discuss here. Why are they forcing us to do it this way? 2 main reasons, I think. Number 1, it keeps people playing the game as they're excited about future legendaries being dropped. Let's say Heart of Thorns releases, and on the week of its release, ArenaNet says, okay, the next patch is Living World, Season 3, Episode 1. It comes in 4 weeks, and there's going to be a new legendary dropped in the game, a new map dropped in the game, blah, 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 blah. And so people, like, continually are hooked into that news cycle, and they want to keep playing. That's reason 1. Reason 2, I think it genuinely is a question of dev time. It can be pretty easy to say, oh, it's just a skin. Why can't they just, you know, wait another month and drop them all in? They're not just skins anymore, though. What you have to consider is there are multiple tiers of vast scavenger hunt, quest-style collections we have to complete. They're not just a weapon. It's like a whole slew of tasks and long journey for us to go on. Each of those has to be designed, and each of them has to be distinct and cool in some way. And so by putting them in the living world, not only do they give themselves the time to do that, but it means when we get these new living world maps, it's not just the story and the map-wide meta event and the special new rewards and types of gear we get from them and all that stuff we came to expect from Drytop and the Silver Waste, but actually there's like this whole other layer of content there too for the people who want to get a legendary weapon that was released at the same time as that map, because it can use that map for parts of its scavenger hunt, not exclusively. Of course, I would expect it to be all around the world, but it can use that map. And so I think that's what they're doing. It allows them to spread stuff out a lot more comfortably with the new maps and give like those extra layers of things to do in them as the living world progresses. The living world will be a lot more exciting to people when it doesn't just offer us some story and the occasional stat sets, but when it is also offering legendary weapons and new masteries and maybe elite specializations, though I doubt that will overcome. They'll probably only be with expansions. And so that leads me to the last little bit of talk on this legendary system. Does this mean we're only getting 3 with Heart of Thorns, okay? Now let's look at, let's assume that there's going to be another 2 Living World seasons before the next expansion after Heart of Thorns, okay? Well, that would kind of leave us, if they stick with Season 2 kind of progress, that means they're probably going to add like 4 new maps for free to the game before we get another expansion. So then that's 4 new maps that they can add, and what? Are we going to get 1 legendary per map? 2 legendaries per map? Is there a chance, basically, is what I'm saying, that we might not even get a complete Generation 2 of legendary weapons before the next expansion? How slow are they going to be? That's a curious thought to me. There you go, guys. That's pretty much everything that came out as of today. Don't forget, we've got some big streams coming, so they'll be ram-packed for content over the next couple of days. I will say I have a plan for another video. Someone supposedly has fixed the Z buffer on Reshade. Reshade is kind of the latest iteration of Sweet Effects, Gem Effects, and a variety of other custom user-made post-processing injectors, and it is wonderful. It's brilliant software. I was using it for a while. I never made a video on it because one of the key features of it, which is this ability to portray depth and do really good depth of field and do God rays and all these fantastic things, doesn't work in Guild Wars 2. Supposedly, the makers disabled it on online games because of fear of cheating and stuff, but there is no way to cheat on it in Guild Wars 2, so it's always just kind of sucked. Well, someone claims to have fixed Z-Buffer. If that's true, that's what I'm looking into tonight. You can expect a video on Reshade at some point, which will kind of complete my trilogy of post-process injector videos, starting with Sweet Effects, going to Gem Effects, and finally the Big Daddy Reshade. Look out for that, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let's have some discussion about it. I'll catch you next time.